I am the community director for a company called Influence. My name is Jessica, and my job all day is to play online. True story. So I actually have the opportunity to play around in social media, email marketing, website design and development as part of my job. So when I'm on Twitter or Facebook at work, it's actually okay. That's kind of my background. I've been in email marketing for 5 years plus. I've been in social media since it was uncool. And so this is sort of one of the things that I get to do is do some client and prospect education with people like you, people who might need a little bit of a nudge for social media. So the presentation is, like we said, is going to be pretty quick paced, but I welcome questions at any point. So feel free to give me that eye contact and ask me a question if you have any questions as we're going along here. So first things first, if you do tweet, who tweets? Ooh, we got a couple, that's good. If you tweet and want to mention anything that I've said, you can use my personal handle, Best of Jess, or you can use @Influence. You can also ask any questions to those handles at any time today, during the presentation, later, anytime you want. I will also make sure that you guys have my contact information through Professor Hertz if you need it. So let's get rolling in here. First of all, what is social media? Hint, I'm giving it to you. What makes up social media? What are the things that make you think something must be social media? We didn't have nearly enough coffee in here today. I'll wait.
Say it again.
What makes something social media? Everybody's doing it. So audience is one of them, right? And that everybody is in control of the content. So there are a couple of components I want to point out here. Social media is web and mobile enabled because everything is now on our cell phones. Marketing, which is sort of where I come from, and engagement, which is an extremely important part of social media, channels that allow groups to generate content, number one, engage in peer-to-peer conversations, and that's, you guys are peers sometimes to people having those conversations, but as a restaurant or a restaurant owner or a chef, you're actually listening probably more to peer-to-peer conversations. And then, of course, the exchange of content. And that's where the marketing side really comes into overdrive. So things like YouTube videos, posts on Facebook, photos behind the scenes at your restaurant, that type of thing. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. Examples, and I took MySpace off, sad. I don't think any of us are using the MySpace anymore since we're not musicians. But YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Does anybody know what Instagram is? What's Instagram?
It's like a photo sharing.
Photo sharing. Yeah, exactly. Somebody yesterday said it makes your pictures look old. Well, it's pretty accurate, actually. Instagram is a way to follow what somebody is up to visually instead of through text. Something like a Twitter is a text update of what I'm doing. Something like Instagram is, here's what I'm doing, see what I'm doing. Foursquare, anybody know what Foursquare is? I got kind of a nod, go for it.
It's like a check-in system.
Check-in, what does check-in mean?
To let people know where you are.
To let that's the whole thing, true story. To let people know where you are and whether you're happy with it or not. Foursquare is what we call location-based service, and it is, I can go to lunch at Happy Gillis and check in and see what other people have left behind as tips to do and let other people know what I've done there. So, Foursquare, Pinterest, anybody have, does what? Pen pals. Unfortunately, no. Pinterest is, it might be more interesting. Pinterest is a growing social medium that has everything to do with, you know, like push pin boards, like when you used to have cork boards and you could pin, like I want everything I want to visualize for myself on the cork board. It's kind of like that, but with infinite amounts of space and infinite amount of content to choose from. So I can go anywhere on the web and find a picture of something that I want to buy and put it on my board, to like my wish list maybe, to sort of gather information there. And I only explain these now because I don't think that we'll probably get terribly into either Instagram or Pinterest in this presentation, but wanted you guys to kind of have a hold on what that is. What about LinkedIn? Is anybody on LinkedIn? Ooh, we should all be on LinkedIn, right? As long as you are job searching, you should be on LinkedIn because that's your roving resume. So LinkedIn is another one we're not going to talk a lot about today because it's probably not going to be how you connect with your patrons or your partners. So let's keep moving here. How about why social media? Since I have to convince you, right? Well, social media is just a good idea. Well, it is just a good idea, but let's talk about some of the reasons that we really think that social media should be a part of your marketing strategy. Number one, there's a low barrier to entry. There's a financial aspect to that too, but a low barrier to entry as in, how many of you have a Facebook account? Personal Facebook account? Okay, how did you take classes on how to do it? No. It's a low barrier to entry. If you're in it, you get it because it was made with the user in mind. It was made so that everybody can do it, not just the media, not just a marketer, not just a company. Everybody can do it. It was supposed to be easy. So there's a low barrier to entry. If you know kind of how to do it, the business side of it isn't any harder than that. It's just putting some time in. It's immediate. If I were to check in right now, I checked in yesterday, so I'm still technically here, it turns out, when I go to Foursquare. But if I post something to social media, it happens immediately. People know where I am. It goes out to all of my networks at the same exact moment. It took less than a second to do, and I can keep track of where all of my friends are in one platform. That leads me into my next one. It's trackable, and you will find that I'm a data nerd. So every time I say something about my favorite part is, it's probably because it's something measurable or tangible. Trackable meaning if you post something on Facebook and I like it or comment on it, you can see that. You know that it happens. You get a notification for one, but from a business perspective, when you put together, let's say, a Facebook page for your restaurant, you can see everybody that clicks on and comments on your link or your photo or your video or whatever it was that you shared, as well as seeing how many people actually saw it. So now you're super stalker, now you're big brother. You can actually see who's opening your emails or who got to see that post that you weren't sure that anybody saw because nobody liked it. Well, it might have been one of the posts that almost everybody saw, but that just nobody engaged with. So the metrics of social media are definitely something that we'll get more deeply into here. It's cost effective. I didn't say free. Why? Why isn't social media free? What does it always cost you? Your time. It always costs you your time. And just like me, you guys have so much extra spare time, you're just rolling in it. No, it costs your time. It's an investment. And so because of that, we talk about social media is a great return on investment. So watching how much you're investing, whether that's your time, whether that's incentives or discounts, or whether that's actual cash prizes or spending money in advertising. So it's important that we understand that the ultimate is that we want to get something back out of it. I'm not just going to do it because it's a good idea and I'm supposed to. I'm going to do it because eventually it's going to bring more diners into my restaurant. So let's move forward, and you kind of recognize some of these things here: email, Yelp, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Foursquare. How to use it. So one of the big ways that I use it, of course, is going to be the sales and marketing up top. There are 100 ways to use social media, and the best social media practitioners are using them in all of those ways. So not just doing sales and marketing, but there's a huge branding and awareness aspect to this. If I have a great tone of voice for my Facebook page or for my Twitter account, that's a good representation of myself. So if anybody's ever seen anything that Houlihan's has done through email or Facebook or Twitter, they have a fantastic brand voice. You know it's Houlihan's. I mean, their coaster might as well be talking to you from their Facebook page. Hell, their coaster has a Facebook page. You can be friends with Coaster McGee or whatever his name is. Yeah, so they have a great brand voice, right? That's bang on for their branding. It's great at driving web traffic. There it is. It's great at driving web traffic if that's what you really want. So if you want people to be looking at your menu or your events or something like that, that's fine. What we really want here is probably traffic to our stores. Customer support, and I cannot stress this enough, if you are in social media for marketing, you better be listening for customer engagement as well. Because if somebody has an issue with you, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later, and you're not addressing it, but you are pushing marketing materials out, you're probably not making the best impression of yourself. So number 5 or whatever I'm on, reputation management. This is free stalking. False. Free listening, I'll say that. It's free listening. Anything that people are saying about you in Twitter is public. If they like you, if they hate you, it's all public, and you have a way of monitoring that and gathering that information to see if maybe your product needs to change, if your management needs to change, or if something needs to be expressed differently to the media. Hiring, I probably won't touch on a ton here, but keeping in mind that the friends of the people that work for your restaurant are probably a good resource, A, for coming into the restaurant, but B, actually for finding your next rock star employee as well. And then one I know I won't touch on here because there is no way I could nail all of this in one presentation is search engine optimization. Who knows what that is? In the back? Search engine optimization is what?
Like when someone types something in Google and you want to be near the top.
That's exactly right. When somebody types something in Google and you want to be kind of up towards the top, that is organic search marketing, meaning I didn't buy that spot. There are people who buy that spot too, right, called pay-per-click advertisers. But there's the organic idea of if I am really about pizza in Kansas City, then when somebody searches for pizza in Kansas City, I would like to float to the top, and there's an art to that. Some of that is what your website says, but some of it is what other people say that drive traffic to your website. So in social media, in some of the forms of social media, we'll get into some of that, we can actually see that if I'm talking about great pizza and then I link back to your website, you get like a point for that. We call it Google juice. You get a little bit of Google juice for that. So that's one of the ways that social can help your search engine optimization. Let's jump into myth versus fact. This is my favorite one. Social media is magic. It's a blue pill. Or red pill. Which one was the good one? Blue pill? It's a magic pill. How about that? It's a magic pill, and it's all I ever have to do for marketing. False. You will never hear me say that because there's no such thing as a television-only marketing campaign or a radio-only marketing campaign. Social media is one of your tools in your overall toolbox, and it works best when it supports some of the other traditional media that you're doing. Things like email marketing should tie into your Facebook page, should tie into some of your web promotions, should tie into your in-store promotions. Everything needs to work together. This is one spoke on your entire marketing plan main hub. So more that we can sort of cross-promote those, and I'll get into some really good examples here with some of the who does it well. So second myth, social media is just a good idea and it doesn't need to be measured. You already know I'm going to hate that one, right? Because I said I was a data nerd and because I said, oh, it's just a good idea. Well, it is just a good idea. It is just a good idea, just like good customer service, touching tables. When you walk around a restaurant and you talk to your patrons, that's just a good idea, right? How do you measure whether that's a good idea or not? Well, maybe you don't for that one, but there are measurables in social media. There are things that we can watch and track and see in social media. For example, how many customer complaints did we resolve that were solely based online? Somebody was angry in the store, but you didn't touch them, and now you hear something on Twitter. Worst service I've ever had. We've got a good example of that coming up. Worst service I've ever had. I don't know what happened. We waited for 45 minutes, and you now have an opportunity. They're telling all of their friends that. You now have an opportunity to eavesdrop on that conversation and to be a part of that conversation. So it is absolutely measurable. How many people did you touch that you didn't touch the week before? How does it drive traffic to your store? How does it drive traffic into your restaurant so that you can say, I pushed lunch, or I pushed this one lunch item, and suddenly we sold more of that? Weird. No, not weird. That's measurement. That's what we're going for, right? All right. Which social media? I promise you that I will not tell you that you have to be in all of them. In fact, I will give you a sigh of relief right now. You don't have to do Twitter if you don't want. You're welcome. So I do think you should probably start with a couple of these and be choosy. Figure out which one you think is going to be the best use of your time. For example, some of the ones that we sort of draw from in the first place are email marketing. To me is a bread and butter. Nobody opens a restaurant and thinks, oh, I just don't need to know who comes in, so I just won't collect that. Facebook seems sort of logical too. If you have some sort of a brand or some place that people want to share with their friends, Facebook becomes a logical one. Twitter, of course, is, I say fast and easy because I've been doing it for 3 years, but I understand that that's not the case for everybody. Foursquare, when we're checking into places. Yelp, which is mostly customer reviews, but your foodies, your hardcore foodies are going to spend some time there. Google Places, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but basically when you search for something and the second thing that comes up is whatever's closest to you that fits that description, that's a Google Places opportunity. And then YouTube. And I'll kind of talk a little bit more about each of these. So first, use Facebook if your audience is even remotely female. No. Use Facebook if your audience is under the age of, let's say, 45 now, right? I mean, it's really, or if they have children or grandchildren, or they have, really there's kind of a broad range here. Facebook has the audience. Facebook has a small country, not even a small country. Facebook has a large country of audience. So if you're not there, you're definitely missing out on something. You're definitely missing out on the chance for people to experience your brand when they check into the places that they're going on Facebook, because you have some sort of a location there anyway. Your restaurant will. So now you get to put sort of a brand on that. So when somebody checks into Ingredient Restaurants, you can actually see the Ingredient logo and some of the pictures of their food when you check into that place. It's a good fit for most restaurants, one, because it integrates multimedia, everything, videos, Facebook, text updates. There's a huge move because of Pinterest, probably largely. There's a huge move to getting into the photo update sphere. So instead of just typing an update, you could write an update on a white piece of paper and post a photo of it, or type an update onto a yellow background instead of a white background. So the idea behind Facebook being that we get a rich media experience, they really have become a house for a lot of different types of connections. So event marketing, your photos, that type of thing. They're all kind of in one place. Facebook made it really easy for marketers, for brands, to be able to be in that space with all the content that they need. So key benefits, of course, a large built-in audience and the multimedia interaction. The good things that it's best for are customer communication, people who are checking in to that location, and of course brand management, because it's a great opportunity to express your brand. It's okay at driving traffic to your site. Facebook users really like to stay on Facebook, so probably you want to make sure that whatever content you need, you're giving them there. And that's okay too. I mean, if you want to drive somebody to your website for a menu or for event listings, that's okay. But remember that Facebook has made itself a hub for a reason. It's not helpful for SEO, and here's why. Google and Facebook don't love each other. Facebook has promised you, the users, that they will not share your information with anybody that does not have permission to see that information. That's not Google unless it's public. So if I'm telling you what I thought of my lunch spot yesterday, Google doesn't get to see that unless I post that in a very intentionally public way. So yeah. Oh, sorry, I did it again. I should have changed that from yesterday. SEO is search engine optimization, and I shortened it without saying what it was. Thank you for asking. So it's not good for helping Google understand what your website is about because it's not reading what's on Facebook to figure out how to pass that Google juice. Thank you for asking that. I'm so sorry, I should have changed that. So it's not helpful for SEO, but it is. They do have the audience. That's not a very big takeaway from their strength. Yeah.
I've noticed that you had all the other like deals up there, but I didn't see Craigslist.
No Craigslist. Well, okay, so there's two things going on here. Remember we talked about social media as a way for people to engage in peer-to-peer conversations. Mm-hmm. So Amazon isn't a social media medium either because it's more of an e-commerce platform than it is an engagement medium. So people don't post, for example, you might sell something on Craigslist, but they don't post maybe conversations that way.
Yes, they actually do. They have a section called rants and raves on there.
Which is more a review. It's a fine line, and I understand that. It's more of...
I was just wondering.
Yeah. So, and that's part of being picky, right? So if Craigslist is going to be the right fit for somebody, absolutely look into it and consider that part of your social media strategy. In the case of restaurants, we probably don't need a huge following on Craigslist or a huge connection base on Craigslist, but I could be wrong. So it's about really connecting with people where they need to get to you. There are a lot of people there, but they're mostly interested in buying sort of real stuff, right? So if we're in a restaurant setting, what we really want is for somebody to come and dine with us, and that maybe isn't the right fit for what Craigslist users are looking for.
Is it really just more for like job opportunities? I mean, that's what...
Craigslist?
Yeah.
Craigslist is for buying and selling anything,
No, I
including
mean,
your
would
job.
you say that's what restaurants use Craigslist more for?
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. Yes. So restaurants are more looking for, and that may be more of a, like when I said I wasn't going to talk much about hiring, that may be more of a how you guys get stuff out of social media rather than what you're putting into social media. That's a great point. Thank you for that. So Foursquare, we said Foursquare was a location-based service, something where I can go to a restaurant for dinner. Let's say I go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I used to work at Buffalo Wild Wings, so let's start with that. I go to Buffalo Wild Wings and I check in, and I can push that out to all of my friends and tell them it's 35-cent wing night. I think they're 50 cents now. It's 50-cent wing night on Tuesday night. Come and join me for the game, whatever. So use Foursquare if your audience has a smartphone, right? Foursquare is only really useful if people have the technology to get there, and generally they still have a younger audience. It's a tech-savvy under 40 crowd, excuse me. So, what was that? I'm not saying anything bad about over 40. I'm not saying you can't check in if you're over 40, by the way. Wow, I'm just going to keep digging. But generally speaking, we're looking for a slightly more tech-savvy audience. It started out largely male because of that, and has, of course, just like all social media, swung slightly female because us ladies like to share what we're doing, what we're up to, and what we think of it. So Foursquare is kind of one of those. It's especially popular for the restaurant industry and stores because people love to tell you what to order that's not on the menu, or they love to tell you who was a good server and who was a bad server. They want to share, and like I said, especially women, right, in that demographic, in that target age, they want to tell you. They want to tell you, I got the best server, he was so cute, you should go in and contribute to his college fund. So there's a whole wide range of the feedback that you're getting there, but it is especially popular with restaurants, and kind of largely because it's a loyalty program that you don't have to print punch cards for. So Foursquare's big thing is if you check in, you get some sort of a point for it from Foursquare. And if restaurants are using that in a savvy way, they can say, okay, well, they'll give you a point, I'll give you a cookie. Oh, okay. Just for checking in, just for telling my audience that I'm here. Okay, that sounds great. How about every 5 times I check in, I get something? Now I've got that punch card, that loyalty punch card, taken care of as long as somebody tells their audience about me. How about if you're my most frequent visitor, I give you a special offer, and that's the mayor, right? The mayor gets a special offer because that's what they're into. So Gen Y, under 30, which I can admit I am no longer, but is especially likely to share what they are eating. This is the joke, right, about social media. Why do I care what you had for breakfast? Well, apparently we care. And maybe not breakfast, not like I was sitting at the table reading a newspaper but I go out to eat and I eat at some delicious places if I do say so myself, and I like to talk about it. And other people apparently like to hear me talk about it. So that's kind of a generational thing as well, especially the younger side of that. Key benefit is promoting your offers, promoting events that are happening, can happen through a tip left on Foursquare. And then of course the loyalty and engaging sort of a natural, empowering your diners, making that ask. I talk a lot about social media, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask for you to tell the people that your friends that you came in to dine. So it's okay to share. We give you permission to give us good word of mouth, basically. So it's good for your customer communication. It's great for brand exposure, right? So if you're on Foursquare and one of your friends is checking in at the same lunch place every single week, there's a place downtown called Curry in a Hurry, and it is food court food, but it is, because there's a real Curry in a Hurry, right? There's a real actual larger standalone store. They bring their sauces over to the food court. It is so good. I go once a week, and every time I check in, somebody's like, oh, I need to get there. It's so good. They always say it's so good. Great. Free word of mouth for one of my favorite spots in Kansas City. It's in a food court. Who would have thought? That's some of what we're empowering people to do. It's not helpful for driving traffic to your site. If you are on Foursquare on your mobile phone, you have about 30 seconds with that user, that experience, before they move on. They're not going to click around your website. Oh, they have an event this Saturday? Maybe, but they're not probably going to go all the way to your website to get that information. Email. Use email if your audience is breathing. No, use email if your audience is basically out of high school, right? Anybody post high school, email's just how we talk to each other. It just is. So anybody over the age of 22, that will give you their email address. And what I'm alluding to is permission-based marketing. When you have the little sign-up forms in your store, that's permission. You didn't find their email address or scavenge for it. They gave it to you. They said, I want your emails. I want to know what deals you have so that when I am craving lobster for Lobster Fest, you can send me an email about that. So permission-based email list growth, and there's a whole other presentation we could do on that, but I do believe that email is still the cornerstone of most restaurant plans. We consider email a social medium, and that's good news for you guys, because how many people are as scared of email as they are of Twitter? No, email seems normal, right? It makes sense. So email kind of is that cornerstone, plus you start talking about something we call read rates. So emails, if you get an email in your inbox, how likely are you to read it? Even if you have a ton of emails in your inbox, you're still decently likely to either read it or touch it, at least to delete it. With social media, sometimes, especially Twitter, if you're not sitting down while that stream is going on, you missed it. So email is more like a from me to you. What's your name? Dave. Dave? Dane, thank you. I send Dane an email, and he kind of has to get it, right? It's from me to him. So that's one of the benefits of email. If I post something from my Facebook page or from my Twitter account, he may or may not see that depending on how often he's logging in. The email will always be there. So kind of a different way, the way that things work. Key benefits. So in addition to the building your database of people that you can connect with one-to-one, you can also use that information to personalize or segment to them. So now I'm using the information that I have. You signed up at the Overland Park store. I guess I'll sign you up for the Overland Park emails, right? Your Facebook page may or may not work that way. You may have one brand that manages everything. So email kind of gives you that segmentation that maybe you don't get. It's great for customer communication, great for driving traffic to your website. This is one of the few social media that the whole point is to get them out of the email to somewhere else. Maybe we sent them an email because we want them to go to the Facebook page for a promotion that we're having. Maybe we want them to go to Yelp to review the last time they ate in our restaurant. But email's whole purpose is something else. Not to get the email open, but rather to drive traffic to something. Maybe the Facebook page, maybe the website, maybe whatever. So it is okay for brand exposure to new people, and the reason I say that is if you're asking people for their email address, you've already touched them once. So email, we kind of say email is maybe not an acquisition medium, and that's okay. It's something that you can do to stay connected with somebody who's already come in. It's not helpful for SEO. This is behind locked doors. It comes from me to Dane, and Google doesn't ever see it unless they're Gmail, and that's a whole different creepy story. So this isn't really all that helpful for search engine optimization, and I keep forgetting not to say the shortcut on that. All right, Twitter. Who had Twitter? We had 3 people had Twitter. Who is insistent that they will never use Twitter? Aw, sad. That's okay. That's okay, because mostly for the restaurant industry, Twitter is mostly about customer service. There's a great branding aspect there. So if you're a chef in a restaurant, having a presence, a personality in social media can be very, very cool. Being able to talk one-on-one with your patrons, not just in the restaurant when you're kind of going out and talking to people, but also just listening. I went to Blue Stem the other week, and I loved that they had this back on the menu. I wish they would make it a permanent menu item. Free information, right? So if you have that presence there, you can kind of start to watch that. You don't have to be active in Twitter to gain that information. So you don't have to have something where you push out information all the time, but it's not a bad idea to be a lurker. Lurk, lurk, lurk. So Twitter for most restaurants is about customer service. It is about listening and engaging in conversations more so than promoting things. But like I say, it doesn't hurt to make the ask. So it doesn't hurt to add some marketing to that stream at some point. Delighting the customer, sharing positive experiences. I got a couple of good examples of that. And addressing negative experiences in a fast manner, because remember, this is immediate. So if somebody leaves your restaurant and doesn't get the chance to complain to a manager, you may just never see him again because you didn't get a chance to address it, right? So they may just not come back. If they say something on Twitter, you've got that second chance coming. So key benefit, immediate customer service. It's easy for your own advocates to share. So now we're talking about empowering those who love us. Our foodies, our regulars are going to talk about us, and we can help spread that message to other people that want more information about our brand. Plus, it's good for lurking, for listening. It's great for brand exposure and driving traffic to your website. And this is the first one that's really, really good for SEO. So if I tweet, I had the best pizza at Pizza Bella in Midtown or in the Crossroads, and I link to their website, then obviously Pizza Bella's website is about pizza, in Kansas City for that matter, because I'm in Kansas City. So that becomes a little bit more relevant on that side as well. Yelp and Google Places I want to address largely because if you have any website, if you have a physical location, and in the restaurant industry we typically do, you need to make sure that your NAP, I'm not going to use it without explaining it this time, NAP, name, address, and phone number are all up to date everywhere across the web, and I mean everywhere. This is Google Places, so making sure that your little dot is in the right place. This is your Yelp location, making sure that your menu isn't expired or old, making sure that it's got up-to-date information. If you don't have a regular menu, that's okay, but make sure that your old menu didn't get put up there by a user or something. Watch for commentary that you need, and Google is starting to do a little bit more of the reviews as well. So Yelp is mostly about reviews, and I will admit to you, as I admitted to the other class, they're mostly about bad reviews, just so that you're not surprised when about half of your comments are terrible. Half of your customers don't hate you. That's not how life works. But Yelp does typically draw in people who are particular, and loudly so. So that's kind of the backstory with Yelp. Don't be discouraged. Another good thing about it is you can really hone in on categorizing your restaurant so that if people are looking for fine dining, people are looking for free Wi-Fi, people are looking for whatever it is, they can find your restaurant by searching for one of those things. And then Google Places, like I said, is absolutely about it's your yellow pages. It's about getting your information as up to date as possible so that people know how and where to get a hold of you. So the one thing I'll add to Google Places, and I'm glad I added this yesterday as well, Google Plus. Who's on Google Plus? That's because none of you are Google employees. Nobody's on Google Plus except for Google employees and a couple of nerds like me. The benefit of Google Plus is not in its social medium. Google Plus, does anybody know what it is? Okay, Google has tried social media now 3 times, and they have killed everything they've tried. It doesn't seem to be their forte. The one thing that they did right with Google Plus was it was really fun because you got this interface where you can see all your friends, and then you want to drag them into circles. So it's like putting your blocks in the right bag, right? this is a email marketing contact of mine, or this is a foodie friend of mine, or this is a, right? So here's my theory, and I am being proved right more and more every day. Google knows everything about you. That's not a theory, that's fact. Google knows everything about you, where you shop, what you like, where you spend your time, what you read, what you search for, except for who you know. Now they know who you know. So now they can add that social graph on top of all of this. For example, what's your name? Jeff. When Jeff goes to, what's your favorite restaurant? I know it's a terrible question. What's the last place you ate? Better question. I make my food. Listen to him. He's going to show me right up. Mio. Okay, so he goes and plus ones. He's on the website for Mio, or he searches for something like that, and he sees it, and there's a little button there, like a plus one. It's exactly like the like button, right? Plus one. So now if he and I are in the same Google circles together, if we're connected on Google in some way, when I search for food or anything that they're tagged with in Kansas City, the number one thing to pop up is what my friends have plus one, even if another website or another restaurant is a better fit. So huge impact, right? So talk about search engine optimization. That's a huge impact potentially on whether or not the right people are seeing your stuff. So if you have a desire, feel free to, who has a Gmail account? Okay, if you have a Gmail account, you basically have Google Plus anyway. Feel free to scoot over there and start tinkering with it. And then when you search for something, you'll see that plus one button, and you can say, oh, that's my restaurant, I should plus one that. So that every time somebody's looking for fine dining in Kansas City, they see my suggestions. It's a very, very powerful tool. So that's kind of similar to the way that when you search for something on Facebook, that works. That's going to start to do the same. Now, the reason I bring that up is Google Places at some point in the next couple of months is going to be merged to Google Plus. So your local listings, where your dot is on the map and the information that goes along with that, is going to be tied to your social profile on Google Plus. It's actually kind of good news because it's a lot easier to mess with on that side. The interface for changing stuff is a lot easier. So that's actually kind of a good thing, but it is going to change over. That's the only reason I bring it up. You don't have to start a Google Plus page. Don't worry about it now, but so that you guys know that that's kind of the way that things are working, because your Google Places stuff absolutely has to be updated. Okay, any questions on that? That one's a pretty heavy one. Okay. YouTube. How many of you have ever watched a YouTube video in your whole life, ever? I knew we were awake in here. Okay, so if you have rich content anyway, be on YouTube. That's the easiest bottom line. If you have television commercials or radio commercials anyway, put something on YouTube. It's worth it, especially if you have clever radio or television commercials, right? Because those are the things that it's like, did you hear that hilarious commercial on the radio about do? Sonic commercials? All of them they have a YouTube mecca of all of their hilarious Sonic commercials. Or the Old Spice guy, right? Who hasn't heard of the Old Spice guy? He was hilarious and completely not relevant to anything at all, except for that it made you crack up. And so there it is with the Old Spice logo all over the web. So the other thing is, how many of you have a handheld camera? Oh, there we go. He got it right away. How many of you have a handheld video camera? There it is. So if you have one of these, you can have a YouTube account. So if you, yeah.
Now, how do you get? Now I've heard stories about you getting paid by YouTube and everything like that. And once you get hit like 1 million hits or something, if something's real hot and they keep going, then they start sending you some kind of residual, some kind of way, because they start putting the ads on there.
That is 5.0. I mean, unless you get 1 million visits to your page, which about 100 people probably do, 100 brands probably do, you're really not looking at YouTube as a revenue model. You can work with Google AdWords. Google and YouTube are the same company? I don't know that I'm like saying there's no Santa Claus here, like I'm giving away the secrets, but but Google AdWords can help you place ads on YouTube videos, and that you can do it AdWords, and that can happen at any level. Really what you're talking about is sponsored or revenue generating YouTube videos, and it's no one in this room would be ready for that yet. We don't have clients that are ready for that yet. So it's a pretty exclusive group.
It's just usually something random, you know what I'm saying, that they say that gets to so many hits, and once it do that, then
it is. It's almost never a brand promotion.
Yeah, it's just some crazy video that everybody's watching.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from a personal standpoint, yeah, if you come up with the next viral video, absolutely, we'll talk about how to, get you a manager and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but the good thing about video is exactly what you're touching on, that virality is one of the biggest benefits of YouTube. It's something that's quick, it's entertaining, it's visual, it's got sound, it's illegal at work, it's great, right? So this is one of the areas that if you've got the content for it, it's worth probably putting some time into it. The biggest benefits of it, this is great for SEO. Like I said, Google and YouTube love each other. Google and Facebook hate each other. If I teach you nothing else, that's what you've learned today. But it's actually pretty good for SEO because if you have a video, here are the things that are going to show up. If I search for Jessica Best in Kansas City, the first things that Google will look for is LinkedIn, YouTube. What am I missing? If I had a location, but I'm a person, so that's a bad example. So the first things that are going to pop up are the things that Google is plugged into, that Google makes money on. Shock, surprise, Google wants to make monies. So that's going to be the first thing that shows up for your restaurant too, same thing. Things that probably will show up third or fourth or fifth or sixth, depending on how much of that content you have, are things like your Facebook page, because Google doesn't really totally know what your Facebook page is about unless you've got your settings right on that. So, all right. Customer case studies, not customers, not all of these are my customers, but some good case studies of who does this really, really well. Red Mango, anybody like them on Facebook or follow them at all? Okay, Red Mango is like one of the 500 frozen yogurt stores. And they have, the biggest thing I can tell you, can you read that? I can't read that on the screen. It's kind of like a fist bump, but with their spoons. That's clever. My yogurt is fist bumping itself or each other or something. I mean, it's clever. It's a brand voice, right? They didn't just say, here's some yogurt, look how delicious it is. Fist bump, that's clever. In addition to the fact that they've pulled in somebody else's user-generated picture. That's great. They didn't have to take the picture. They didn't have to come up with that. So this is all on brand for them. And the best part here is, my friend Tori, and 1,500 people liked that picture. That's all it takes. Something a little clever that shows off the product that's on brand for you. You will not get 1,500 likes. That's not what I'm promising. Don't walk away from this and say, Jessica Best said that I was going to get 1,500 likes if I post fist bumping spoons. However, this is a great example of a strong use of brand voice. Also, imagery. Again, I think this is probably due to the growth of Pinterest, but the use of images to tell a story, even if it's just a picture to go along with what you were already going to post, is so much more powerful than just posting text. If I'm looking at my Facebook feed, the first thing that pops out at me are pretty colors. So using those images to help tell the story. They're also really good at responding quickly to, they get comments from the good, the bad, the ugly, the foreign language. I mean, they get a lot of stuff on their Facebook page, and they answer it all in a timely manner. What do I mean when I say timely? How long do you get before you should be responding to something on a Facebook page? An hour. I can tell who the social media user is. I kind of like an hour. I usually tell people a day, 24 hours. And that we'll get into a little bit of how we set those rules too, because if it's 8 o'clock and you're working and somebody posts something at 8 o'clock, can they expect you to respond in an hour? Well, I'm on the line, no, right? No? So that's kind of, we'll get into a little bit of the balance there, but they are very good at staying on top of their comments and stuff. Spin Pizza, I will confess that I know the gal that runs Spin Pizza's social media. She is fantastic. Her name is Tori. And she keeps their page running smoothly. There are a couple of big things here. One, when they respond or when I keep hitting the microphone, sorry about that. When they respond or when they reach out to people, they use about 4 words of Italian, but it's totally on brand for them. So ciao, grazie, that type of thing. She doesn't speak any Italian. Girlfriend does not speak any Italian, but she uses some of that because it's on brand for them. It's almost cheesy, but that's kind of perfect, right? It's a local brand that has a lot of stores that are starting to build in sort of awareness. Anyway, so then the other, I love this combination here, the logo of Spin Pizza and then a graphic, a sort of hero shot type of thing, because now when they comment on something, you can kind of see the logo here. It's a little harder to see in the smaller one. We'll see a better example here in a second. The other thing you'll notice here is their page information is up to date. Now, Facebook changes what their pages look like just about once a month, if we're lucky, right? I mean, all the time. You can update, you might be able to actually make copies of your page in pirate language by next week. I don't know, but They have a lot of updates going on all the time. One of the most recent things that they've done that they've already taken advantage of is if you update all this information, for example, Italian restaurant. If I click on that, I could see all of the Italian restaurants I wanted to see. Pizza place, same thing. The dollars, how expensive it is. This is new. Green light. Green light means I'm open. They're open today from this time to this time. Brilliant, right? I'm on their page for a reason. What got me there? I'm either hungry or somebody told me there was some sort of promotion going on. So that tells me that they are currently open, green light. It tells me what city they're in and of course their actual website. Then the quick, useful responses. So have you started the work in Prairie Village yet? Hey Janie, we've started construction. We're excited and hope to open early next year. See you soon. That was fairly quick. I think I caught her at 3 days on this one. This, all it says is Cindy thinks we're great. Great, right? That doesn't need a response, but they responded anyway. Grazie, Italian, cute, right? We hope you have a great week and we'll see you again soon. So that, if you think of, like, is that out of reach for any of us? No, that's so easy. That's exactly what you would do if somebody was standing in front of you. This gives you a larger standing in front of you stage. So that's one of the things that Spin does really well. Brio, Tuscan Grill, which I also admittedly love. My favorite thing that they do is their consistency and integration across media. So for example, if you go to their Facebook page, you've got a link to join their email club, right? And if you're in their email club, every once in a while they send you something that invites you to be a friend on Facebook, or a fan on Facebook rather. So they do a great sort of cross integration with that. The other thing here is this is, let me get this right, Twitter and Facebook using the same image, but this is not just posted to both. So you get different benefits in each spot, right? In this one, I can say pic.twitter.com, plus I've got a hashtag. Who knows what a hashtag is? I know Jeff does. Give it to me.
It just is like a tweeting or trending, like something that could be silly or it could be serious. But,
It could be silly. It can definitely be silly. A hashtag, what he's telling us is a hashtag is the opportunity to sort of say what your tweet is about, right? So I can tag it a little. Is that kind of fair? I can tag what the tweet is about, or I can just say something silly, like it's kind of the punchline. So I can either say, shaking my head would be like, I can tweet about something and then I could just hashtag shaking my head. That's something that people kind of actually do. And so it's either kind of the punchline, or in this case, what they've done is they created a hashtag for Lasagna Day. And now if I click on that, hashtag Lasagna Day, that is a live link that gets me to everybody's tweets about Lasagna Day. Brilliant, right? Everybody that talks about my Lasagna Day at Brio, I can keep track of in one area, whether or not they talk about Brio specifically. So International Lasagna Day, I can sort of tap into that conversation. So what they've done here is add a photo to a tweet. I can count my retweets. I've got 2 retweets here. On this one, I've got likes, shares, and comments and shares on Facebook. And notice that this is not going to have, and I cut it off here, but this is not going to have a hashtag because hashtags don't become live links on Facebook. And it used to be sort of a point of contention, right? Like, why do people just push the same thing? Because I can't do a hashtag on Facebook. Well, in this case, we can use almost 3 times as many characters. So whereas Twitter is 140 characters, Facebook gives you 420. Why wouldn't you just use the extra, Yeah.
what do you think about using the apps that you can tweet from like TweetDeck or something like that, and it will also post it to like your, Facebook and your other social medias as like one?
Yeah, what do I think about using TweetDeck? Yay, I love TweetDeck. To post to all of your social media the same exact thing. Boo, I don't love that. The reason for that is there are ways to tie, so you could actually push Twitter to your Facebook page and then only ever tweet, for example. And that's not even TweetDeck, you could just do that, right? The downside of that is all of your Facebook posts are gonna be optimized for Twitter. So you're not gonna have the same, for example, if I share a link on Twitter, it's a shortened link. If I share a link on Facebook, it'll go to that website and show me the photos on that website and ask me, do you want a thumbnail? Do you want a description? So now I can have a much richer link share on Facebook than I could on Twitter. So that's sort of why I try not to, and I do use TweetDeck. I think you can't do Twitter raw all the time. That just would drive you crazy. TweetDeck, what he's mentioning is a bit of software that you can put on your computer, or an app that you can put on your computer that helps you filter. So I can look at all of my competitive restaurants in this column. I can look at all of my employees in this column. I can look at, lasagna day or whatever in this column. It helps you organize Twitter so that when you log on, it isn't just a fire hose, because Twitter can be a little bit of a fire hose sometimes. So it's a good question, but I would shy away from just sort of pushing the same thing out to multiple things. It's really easy when it's TweetDeck and all you have to do is highlight, I want it to come from this one, yes, this one, yes, this one, yes, and it can all go out to that same field.
Imagine it's something that does it vice versa, like it says up there, like where it sends out, like if you wanted to put something up on Facebook, Twitter, and what else? What is that called?
None of these cost anything. Good news.
What is it called?
What is it called? Sorry.
It combines them all, so you don't have to like go in my Facebook account, then I gotta go to my Twitter account, then I gotta go to Foursquare, post on all of them, what you wanna put on there.
There's a couple of different options there. The one that he was mentioning is called TweetDeck. So
Oh,
for
that is. It's
for
like- it
aggregating.
does it both ways?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So you can either post the same exact thing to like click, 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 check the boxes, multiple accounts, or you can create your tweet and post to Twitter and create your Facebook post and post to Facebook. And TweetDeck does offer all of those. Hootsuite is another one. It's just up to you on preference. I was a TweetDeck girl from the beginning, and so now I'm completely spoiled and I can't move to Hootsuite, even though Twitter bought TweetDeck and ruined it. It's fine. I'm getting over it. Anyway, so one of the things that Brio does really well then is the consistency between channels. So we've seen an email about Lasagna Day, a tweet about Lasagna Day, and a Facebook post about Lasagna Day, and they all took advantage of the medium that they had at hand. Because you wouldn't send, perfect example, you wouldn't send what you're tweeting as an email. That would be a waste of an email, right? You're not using the benefits that email has to offer. Great layout, lots of pictures, including our sponsors, including the location that's relevant to you. So that type of thing, making sure that they do a great job of sort of cross-promoting those. Happy Gillis, who's been to Happy Gillis? You should all go, it's awesome. Happy Gillis is in Columbus Park, and they have almost a completely different menu just about every day of the week. I mean, it's on a chalkboard behind the register, basically. So around 9 a.m. every day, they say what their soup of the day and what their something of the day is. Soup of the day, sandwich of the day, that's what it is. So at 9 a.m. when I'm going for coffee and I'm like, oh man, been here since 8, really could use some lunch, trying to think of what I'm gonna do for lunch. At 9 a.m. I get this tweet across my desk that says today's soup is potato leek, and suddenly I'm starving. The benefit to this is they've got a huge business crowd. They do a great lunch crowd from the business district downtown. So for them, 9 a.m. is perfect. Not everybody can tweet at 9 a.m., right? But if they know that that's what's gonna be their soup of the day, they can set that up the night before, tweet that out. The other thing that they do is their response to negative feedback. I was really impressed with this. So Alyssa is admittedly a friend of mine, so I was watching this conversation. Service is semi-rude, but the food looks really good at Happy Gillis. And this is how you know it's a Foursquare check-in here. Foursquare.com or Foursquare.com. And then that it has a picture, so pic. She took a picture of her check-in. But really the big thing here is, we said Twitter's kind of about customer service. The big thing is the service is semi-rude, right? She knew their handle, Happy Gillis. She's saying it to them. She expects a reply, right? The service is semi-rude, Happy Gillis, right? So then within, let's see, 4 days, ooh, we're really not doing very well on that, are we? Okay, within 4 days, sorry we were rude, Alyssa. Let me know next time you're in and I'll buy you an apology cookie. Just ask for the manager, David. There are 2 things he does really well here. What would one of them be?
He apologizes.
Starts with an apology. Starts with an apology and a reward, right? Let me take care of it for you. What's the other thing he does?
He says his name.
He says his name. Who's it coming from?
David.
I'm sorry. I, David, am sorry you had that experience. It's not we. It's not Happy Gillis. I love that. Not everybody takes that tack, but I love that he personally apologized. I am sorry you had a bad experience. Come talk to me, David, and I'll buy you a cookie next time you're in. Very, very well handled there. 4 days after it happened, but very well handled eventually. So, all right, ingredient, and I have to disclaim because this is actually a client of ours, although they do their own social media, we do work with them on their social media stuff. So the biggest thing I think they do really well, look at this page. I mean, most of what they post are pictures or engaging questions. Their headshot looks delicious. They're using a logo. So this is what I was saying. This is a better example. Their logo is their smaller profile picture so that when they comment, it is very clear. I don't have to try and make out the front of a building to see if it's ingredient. It's the ingredient logo, and then they save sort of the graphics and the fun for how they share on a day-to-day basis. They post probably 3 to 4 times a week. They're very active on Facebook. So this is something that they do really well. They've got they integrate photos and engaging comments. Anytime somebody posts to their wall, they're very good at engaging with that. They're multi-channel integration, so they've got a strong email program, and they always are promoting side by side with the in-store promotions. Have you ever gone to an ingredient restaurant? Okay, so if you go 10 feet into the store, you will see the first of their many promotions. I'm sure of it. They do a ton of cross-channel stuff. Sign up for our text updates here. Sign up for our email updates by texting us your email address. Benefit of that, by the way, and I don't know that I have that in here, but text to opt in. If somebody gives you, and I know that I do because I remember saying this yesterday, if somebody gives you their email address, how likely is somebody to give you an email address versus giving you their cell phone number? Which one wins? How often are you going to get an email address versus? A lot more, right? Because if it's an email, I can go and sit down and do my email. If it's on my mobile phone, you have the exact right key to annoy me all day long. That's really a terrible idea. Now, if you can get a mobile phone number, you actually have the opportunity to connect with that person immediately, as long as you don't abuse it, of course. Because what's the difference in read rates? We were talking about read rates earlier. Average read rate for email marketing is about 20 to 30% of your list will read your emails. We'll go with that. 20 to 30% of your list will read your emails when you send out. How many people will read your text messages?
100%. 90 to 100.
90 to 100%. Because it just went off in my pocket. Like, I have to pay attention to it. It's not the same thing as email, right? So if you can get the text opt-in, great. What they do is, if you want to sign up for our text program, do this. If you want to sign up for our email program, text us your email address. Now, this isn't sneaky. They're not keeping your phone number because you texted them. They just want an easy way to get your email address without having to read your handwriting, number one. And number two, now they don't have to type anything in. It goes in automatically into the system because it's all digital. So a little bit of a sidebar there, but their multi-channel integration really works very strongly. They do a lot of in-store promotions, a lot of Foursquare promotions. In fact, this is their location on Foursquare. If you go to, nobody ever goes to Foursquare.com, by the way, but if you did, this is what it would look like, because I can't get a screenshot off of my Android phone. Another problem I'm sure I will get over. Ingredient Restaurant, their location, you can move your dot, right? Once you claim your venue, once you say, I am the owner of this venue, you can claim that dot and move it. I'm actually on the other side of the street. I'm not sure how that got messed up, but I need to move that. It has the phone number for that location, the Twitter handle for that location, or if there's only one, you can share Twitter handles, their website, and then here we go, loyalty special. If you check in 5 times, you get a free cookie. Not like on the 5th time, like on the 5th time and the 10th time and the 15th time. Do you know how many cookies I've had thanks to Ingredient? A lot of cookies. They probably cringe when they see me come in now, because I want my punch card. And you get different things. So they also do an in-store promotion loyalty card that says if you spend $10 at lunch, you get a stamp, and for 10 of those, you get a free $10 lunch. That's great. Why is that different from this? Because this, they don't know that I even ordered anything. I just checked in. Phenomenal. Maybe I went and had a soda, but now they're saying, in addition to that, if you spend $10, we'll also give you this $10 free voucher. The other one that I love, I think this is so fabulous. Almost nobody has a mayor special that's this strong. Hello, mayor, since you can be the only one, you get 50% off of your order. Thanks for checking in. 50% off, that is a, I will keep this PG, but that is a heck of an opportunity for me, because now, not only am I probably am going to Ingredient anyway, and I can check in every time I go because I get points for it. Or if it's between Ingredient and the Mix, where am I gonna go? I'm one check-in away from being the mayor at Ingredient. I'm gonna get my meal for 50% off. And that puts a little bit of fire in people's britches for that. So, yeah.
I have no ideas, but like, what stop people from like just checking in at like Ingredient like every day, like 3 times a day just to get that, or just like become the mayor?
They have become better at putting, the question was, how can people just not check in and like 5 times I get a cookie, 5 times I get a cookie. You could be sitting in your office and check in. There is something in Foursquare that if your GPS doesn't put you within a mile of that location, you don't get the points for the check-in. Not perfect, but you could easily be walking by. He's trying to make us all cheaters, but you could easily be walking by and check in that way. But mostly people don't try to nab that. So yeah.
Is that like a level?
It is a level. It's exactly like we call it gamification in the marketing world. We basically have made a game out of how often you are here. So if you're my most frequent visitor, you are my mayor. I make you my mayor or my king or my whatever. And in that case, if you're a dedicated, loyal customer, I'd like to reward you by giving you 50% off your meals.
Only one person can do it, or do you just check in so many times?
It's based on the number of times you check in. Yeah, so at each location, for example, the mayor of ingredient downtown will be different than the mayor of the ingredient on the plaza. So, and it's based on the number of times you voluntarily tell your audience where you are. So, it's a lot. It is a lot. She's like, I don't get it. Why would people do that? But it is kind of a neat toy, right? If I got 50% off my meal, would I be incentivized to give it a try? And the answer is usually yes.
I get it from a business owner's standpoint that you're trying to get people to come in, but as far as a just person, I don't get the loss of privacy. I don't care if someone goes to the restaurant.
It's a great point to pause and bring up, actually. The loss of privacy based on social media. So some of it is, it's all self-selected. And Foursquare isn't like Facebook. Foursquare is not probably even 25% of your market, right? The people who check in are tech-savvy, dedicated restaurant goers, that type of thing. I do it because I love to hear the tips, so I'll read a couple of these here. The loss of privacy is a very real concern for patrons. True of Facebook, true of Twitter, true of everything but email, right? Email's behind closed walls. That doesn't bother anybody. But the loss of privacy of where I'm checking in is definitely under discussion. Different people have different comfort levels. And the biggest advice that I can give to you guys as business owners is be careful what you do with that information. If people feel stalked, they will stop doing it. There was an interesting story actually of a gal that works at Cerner that had hooked up. So for example, your Foursquare only tells the people you're friends with on Foursquare unless you push it to Twitter, unless you push it to Facebook. And she'd been pushing everything everywhere. She's a super social media user. And she got a phone call when she was sitting at O'Dowd's on the plaza. Like the server came over and brought her the phone. And the guy goes, "Are you enjoying the pancakes? Did you like your bike ride over?" Some guy she's never met called O'Dowd's because she checked in and said, "Find the girl with the glasses and the short hair," and gave her the phone. And so there is definitely a very real privacy risk there. She now keeps that to the 10 people that she's friends with on Foursquare or whatever it is. So, sad story, sorry. She's completely fine, by the way. Nothing ever happened of it, but he just called to freak her out. And it worked. It completely worked. So, anyway, back to creepy. Sorry, bad transition. One of the benefits here for a business owner and for the user, so to get back to some of the benefits of why people would do it, are tips on Foursquare. Being able to order off menu, like it's not on the menu, but they'll always make it for you. Those type of tips are extremely popular on Foursquare. Try the honey wasabi turkey burger with the pasta salad as the side. It's amazing. Have the California veggie burger over a regular burger. Who would have thought that, right? Like, who would have thought that? Well, veggies. But in general, you know, you're kind of looking for the inside scoop because it's just not an entirely saturated market yet. So the tips are a big part of it. And then photos. I can go on there, and as long as somebody has given the permission, so there is an option to say, I only want my friends to see this photo, or I want everybody to see this photo. And you can take pictures of the food. You can take pictures of what you ordered, or the bar, or the cute bartender, or whatever. So there are kind of different levels that you can give permission to, but when you share, this becomes one of the best megaphones for your company. Because now you're not just sharing with your friends, you're leaving a sticky note at the table, basically, that says, I had a really great experience with this server, you should always ask for him. Or did you know that you can order this and it's not on the menu? That type of a, yeah.
How do you deal, you said take pictures of the keyboard and the servers. How do you deal with that? I mean, sometimes, some people aren't gonna say, can I post your picture? I mean, that's why I originally got off Facebook, because people put my picture on there. I'm like, what are you doing to put my picture on there?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal with that as an owner?
It's probably more up to the employee. And the
But I mean, that employee turn around and sue you as an owner, because you're allowing your customers to take pictures of your employees.
Probably that needs to go in your social media policy, and we've got a good section on that coming up, so let's come back to that, because that's It doesn't seem to be a very prevalent thing, but it is a very real liability question. And that's something that you probably need to just know, that when diners come in or when somebody works for you, they sign a social media policy that says you are responsible. Just, if you were walking down the street, somebody could take a picture of you. It doesn't matter that it's in your restaurant. And so they waive their right to basically take civil action. So let's get to that in the social media policy. The only other thing I'll say here is, as a business owner, I get to see the number of check-ins. This is me personally, the influence fake me. Number of total people who have checked in here, and then the total number of check-ins here. So I start to get some really good information about who comes, when do they come, is lunch more popular than dinner? Now you guys know that anyway because you've got your sales reports. But where are my tech-savvy people coming from? Where are my male audience or my female audience coming from? And that's all aggregate data, right? So I'm not getting Jessica's check-ins. I'm getting my audience is slightly male versus female. They usually check in at this time, that type of thing. So let's get started. Oops. First things first, what do we budget? Remember, we said we were never going to call social media free because it's always going to cost our time. But let's start with time. If you have time, what can you start doing? One, anybody that is, if you have a patron happiness manager, then you have a PR manager that should be probably investing some time in looking at social media. And that may be lurking on Twitter, that may be managing the Facebook page, it could be all kinds of things. But at the very least, having some sort of a social presence so that you can answer those questions in that space. Then you get to the next stage of that. So maybe for over the course of a year, you're ready to invest $5,000. Now this could be everything from incentives, as in I'm willing to put out a 50-cent coupon on Facebook just to see how many we get redeemed, because that's a great tracking mechanism. If you only put the coupon on Facebook and you get 50 of them, people saw it on Facebook. So that can be an investment. That 50 cents can be an investment, that type of thing. The other things you can spend some time and money on are custom branded profiles, things like your YouTube profile or your Facebook. You really don't get a lot of design, but your Twitter background, again, don't spend a ton of time on things like that. But the big one there is there are some paid message management and measurement tools. So if I wanted to be able to do something a little bit more advanced than just search and post real time, Hootsuite has a scheduling option. TweetDeck does, but it's broken. There are systems out there that you can pay sort of an entry-level fee to and get a little bit of that measurement sort of back in one place. Past that, there's of course always working with somebody, and some of the larger restaurants have started doing this. We do have some restaurant clients as well at Influence, sorry, because there is a natural breakdown between I am in the restaurant doing the thing that we're selling when people are talking about it. I also can't be the person that's handling those comments in a timely manner. And so there is a little bit of we're happy to outsource that to you or share that with you. And that's where some of the larger restaurants go as well. I'm a big fan of training you and your restaurant and your staff to be the real voice of your restaurant instead of taking that over. So there can be some consulting fees in there. There can be some strategy planning fees in there. I usually ask restaurants to be pretty proactive on their own. I mean, the response from Happy Gillis, we wouldn't have come up with that. We would have said, really sorry, tell us what we can do, call customer service. No, when it's the real person, when it's the real manager doing it, he can fix it. He can say, come in and ask for me. I'm happy to fix that for you. So how do I measure success? And remember, I said this is not just a good idea. We're going to measure our success. Setting measurable goals is the first sort of big step to that. How do you measure your other goals? How do you measure the success of a postcard if you did a postcard in your neighborhood? How would you, what are some of the other ways that you guys can think of to promote your restaurant? What are you going to do when you open a brand new restaurant? What are some of the things you're going to do? How about halfway through there? What are some of the marketing tactics for a restaurant?
Get the name out so people know that you're there.
So what would you do to get the name out, for example?
Coming soon banner.
A coming soon banner? Okay. How do you know?
High traffic location.
Absolutely. Okay. So in-store signage even. So once you're there, in-store signage. How do you know that it worked? How do you measure it? If you have people there, right? So there is a little bit of ambiguity there. There is a little bit of, how do we know that our coming soon banner worked? Well, it was just a really good idea. It is a really good idea. But Did people come on opening week that maybe wouldn't have come if they hadn't driven by when there was a coming soon? This is the name of our restaurant on the side of the building. So there is a little bit still of gray area there, but make sure that you're measuring social media the same way that you would measure any of your offline or online tactics. So don't just say, oh, it's a good idea, I'm going to spend 5 hours a day on it. Well, A of all, 5 hours a day is probably way too much. I don't spend that much time in social media. And B, if it's not producing something for you, if you can't at least assume that it brought more traffic into your location, then it's time to start talking about something different. So the ones that I use are awareness, share of voice, hearing people talk about your restaurant. So what you're saying is get the word out, right? If you hear somebody say, oh yeah, that's that new place over on the corner of, something's working, right? What's your share of voice? How often are people talking about you when they're talking about an upscale dining experience or when they're talking about their favorite place to go out to dinner? Reviews, and again, that's something like a Yelp or even Facebook. What are your reviews saying about you? Are those more positive since you started listening to customer feedback and maybe fixed the manager that was a big fat jerk? That type of a thing. So sales. Sales is the bottom line. We're only doing any of this because we want people to eat at our restaurant. So sales is definitely one of your measurement tactics. What we're going to do when we start is start at 0. That's a very good place to start. There's nothing wrong with starting at 0. And we measure everything over the course of time. Setting measurable goals for the first year is a lot like throwing spaghetti at the wall. So if I say I want to grow my email marketing list to 300 people in the first year, like I want 300 email addresses in 1 year. If I hit 250 email addresses at the end of the year, did I fail? No. I have 250 email addresses. That's awesome. Now I have a new benchmark and I can say, okay, next year I want to get to 500, or next year I want to stretch and I want to get to 600, whatever it is. So setting measurable goals and then following through and seeing what those, and again, there's some gray matter here. There's some gray area here. If you've got 500 Facebook fans, what the heck does that mean? Well, I don't know. How many of those Facebook fans are actively engaged with you? That's a little bit better, right? How many people clicked on this link versus this link? How many people brought that coupon into your store? That's the measurement that we would rather have, but there is a little bit of that audience growth and that audience tracking that we are looking for. All right, so we're to the social media policy, and I want to get some feedback on this too. The biggest thing I can tell you is your social media policy is not the thing that the legal guy comes in and writes up and then makes everybody sign and nobody ever reads it, and it's not really that helpful. The social media policy should be not just the don'ts, but also the do's. So for example, how will your team handle positive and negative feedback? What's the policy going to be? When somebody posts on our wall, how long will it take us to get back to that person? How long will it take us if it's a good thing? And how long will it take us if it's a bad thing? Again, we're talking about 24 hours is a pretty tight window of time, but I think that's fair, especially if it's negative feedback. So if somebody gives you negative or positive feedback in a way that it's viably predictable that you could pick up on it. I mean, if somebody like posts to their Facebook wall, doesn't mention you, and has all of their profile settings set to private, you're not going to get it, right? So there's no expectation of that. But when it's something in a semi-public forum like Yelp or Twitter or whatever it is, how are you going to respond to that? What do you expect of your employees in social media? What are you asking of your employees in social media? Is it that you want them not ever to talk about your restaurant? If I'm trying to get the word out, do I never want my employees to talk about my restaurant? Of course not. Talk it up. Just don't make it bad stuff. If you have a problem with your job, come talk to your manager. If you want to talk about how great we are, go ahead, put it in social media. Make that very, very clear. Let them know what they can and cannot do in social media and retain their job. So that's the flip side of that, right, is what do you want them to do and not do, and what are the punitive actions that would be taken if they don't really follow that. And a lot of it is, we talk a little bit about the legal side of it, and a lot of it is, are you putting the company in danger? Are you libeling the company in some way? If we say that we're closed for a rat infestation, I mean, what the corporate office is going to say is, sorry, we're undergoing some last-minute construction and maintenance or something, right? So we're going to close for the next couple of days. Sorry for any inconvenience. And then if one of the employees says, man, those rats were huge. Hey, whoa, you just gave away the secret sauce. Like that's way too much for the public to know because they're hurting the potential of the company to bounce back from that. Same thing with any social media or offline crisis. So who talks about an online crisis? Who's the spokesperson? And again, none of this is new. If you had a crisis like a rat infestation, for example, and I'm making that up because I don't know the last time anybody actually had a rat infestation, apparently a couple years ago. But if you had something like that that was a problem, what's your current policy? It may not be written down, people may not have signed it, but what's your current policy? Did the employees get to talk about it? Of course they don't. Of course they don't. You have a person. That person is in charge of the PR of your company, and they talk to the media, and nobody else talks. Zip it, nobody else talks. This is just extending that to social media and making them sign it. So that is a little bit of the legal policy. And then what's your name in the back?
Me?
Yeah.
Sid?
Sid actually brings up a great point. What do you expect for your employees to do in the case of it's kind of a social media crisis in that case? What do you expect them to do? Are you held liable if somebody comes into your restaurant and harasses one of your employees? Are you held liable if somebody comes into your restaurant and, fill in the blank, there's all kinds of offline crises that could be pulled into the social sphere. And I think it's okay to say, if you're here representing our brand, we encourage social media participation from our patrons. If you have a problem with that, you need to speak now or sign away your rights, kind of. You don't want to say sign away your rights, but you can't sue us because a patron that we have no control over posted a picture of you, and you make them sign that says, I will not hold you, company, liable for that. So it's definitely something worth considering. So what are the 4 pieces that we're going to put into our social media policy? I don't think I've got your name yet. What's your name? Justice. Tell me the 4 pieces of our social media policy. Which side are we on? Try this one. So we're gonna put in the policy. What's one of them? How to handle positive and negative feedback. What's another one? Employee expectations and what you're going to do if they don't follow the policy. That's an important part of it. What else? Somebody in this side. What goes in your social media policy?
The actions that you'll take.
Yep, the actions, the punitive actions that you'll take.
What they can do.
What they can do, right? There's one more piece here, and that's what happens in a crisis, who talks and who doesn't in a crisis. But what they can do. Empower your employees to be great brand advocates for you. They're the best you've got. These are people that hopefully love what they do, love what they cook, love who they serve, love how they interact with the customers. Tell them to take it offline. Have you ever seen a bartender post, if anybody mentions this Facebook post in the next 2 hours, I'll buy you a shot? Come in, I'll buy you a shot. Of course they do. They're just as invested in getting people into the store as you are. Empower them. Tell them what they can do. Great. Thank you for the feedback. All right, so getting started. And this is a step-by-step of everything from Facebook to Foursquare. So this is stuff that I hope that you guys will keep the slides handy in case you need them. Again, none of this is going to feel like rocket science. And I know that it's all very scary as far as how much time you feel like you have to actually manage maybe some of this stuff, but the setup is super easy. It was supposed to be easy. It's a social medium. It's not rocket science, it's social media. So first things first, if you go to Facebook, if you are on any page ever, any page at all, if you've ever liked a page, go to that page and you'll see a button in the top that says create your own page. And click on that and you'll get to the same place. Otherwise, you can click on this link here. It's a live link in the presentation. And the first thing you'll do is pick out what kind of page you're going to look for. Almost everybody's going to fit in here. Now, there are a couple people who may want to do public figure. Can you think of an example of where we might do that?
Like famous chefs.
A rock star. I want that job. But a famous chef, right? Chef Colby is absolutely a part of the Blue Stem brand. He may want to say, I love that you love me, but I don't want to be your friend on Facebook. Come like my page. Totally fair. Totally fair. In this case, what we're going to do is let's go through the steps of creating a restaurant. There it is. This is the whole questions. This is the only thing that they require to get started, and it's that NAP information, name, address, phone number information that we talked about again. So we've got a restaurant or cafe named A La Carte Restaurant, and I live on 123 Main Street. And then you fill out your basic information. These hours will help them give you the red light, green light thing that we were looking at. What services you offer, what cards you take. So you can fill all this in now. You can add things as you see fit. You can change it anytime. So this isn't like a create it once and then if I change my menu, I'm in trouble. No. This is social media. You change things all the time. Facebook does. So this is just sort of a link to us in other places, and get all that started. Add the photo, the main probably logo photo that you want, and then of course the background photo, the cover photo they call it, and edit your basic information. The only other thing I'll show here is, and this is, to your point, this is actually something that you probably just want to look at, right? Out of the box, users can post comments on your wall. They can share photos on your wall. They can tag your restaurant in photos. Now, if you are not going to monitor very closely who is tagging you in photos, you might want to take that off. Or you might set it to have approve. So can add videos or whatever. I didn't scroll down far enough. That I have to edit, I have to approve it first. If somebody's going to tag, for example, yesterday we had somebody who worked at Story. If I'm going to post a photo of my food from Story and tag Story, the page in it, they have to approve that. Why is that a good idea? Sid, I bet you've got this one.
Well, I mean, it's for liability reasons only. I mean, if it's an inappropriate picture, then nobody can come back on you.
Exactly. So if it's an inappropriate picture, and it's not even just liability, it's just a good idea. I mean, it's a good marketing and PR idea too. If somebody, let's say a vegetarian doesn't like that you're a barbecue restaurant and they show a picture of a slaughtered pig and then tag your restaurant. That's terrible PR, guys. No. We need to kick him out. He's like, yes, no. But other people become sort of in charge of your brand, right? And there is some of that in social media. People are kind of in charge of your brand in social media. But let's not give them the tools to do serious harm. Now, if you're going to be monitoring it fairly regularly, it is kind of fun to let people tag pictures of you because they might tag pictures of food that you wouldn't normally get. And getting user-generated content is the easiest way to upkeep a page so that you don't feel like you have to come up with all of it from scratch. All right, Foursquare. First things first, and Foursquare, by the way, made this really fabulously easy. They've got a whole deck on how it goes so that you just can get started right away. First things first, you're going to create a Foursquare account. This is a good idea anyway. Who is on Foursquare in the room? Anybody? You and me. The fun thing about Foursquare is it's perfect for lurking and research. You can basically follow, like when you go places, you can see what people say when they check in, or you can see what the tips are. Even if all you ever do is use your login for research, like what tips are people saying about my restaurant, that's still a decent reason to get a free account. You don't ever have to check in anywhere. That's my sort of theory across Twitter and Foursquare and all that. You never have to check in anywhere. But having an account so that you can listen appropriately is going to be pretty important. So once you create your first account, you're going to claim your venue. This is very similar to the way that Google does it, meaning you're going to either get a postcard or a phone call or something that says, I really am the owner of that location, and I say that the dot is in the wrong place. So claiming this venue becomes pretty easy. Connecting with customers, which goes very quickly into things like creating a special. Now, most of Foursquare's activities are free for a business to do. They definitely have some paid levels. So if you want to promote something, if you want to be a sponsored event or something like that, they definitely will give you some things you can pay for. And then grow your business. And I'll actually kind of look at the metrics here. So number one, personalizing your Foursquare page. This edit venue link down here will help you. I want to move this somewhere. I need to change what my address says. Oh, that's my cross street. I was like, Baltimore. So adding a description, adding those tags. When you come to our office, you can serve up some fresh, hot email marketing, that type of thing. So when you come to our office, you know what you can expect. Or if you're looking for email marketing, not many people wander the streets looking for email marketing. So it's not as useful for my company as it is for your restaurant. But when people are mobily looking for something to do, they might want breakfast at 4 p.m. At that point, they can kind of use some of those tags. So we're going to log in and click Edit Venue. Start with a special, for example, a free coffee every 5th visit, kind of like that punch card we were talking about. And then this is my favorite. Did you catch it? What's it going to be? Data. Okay, so this is the dashboard, and that's the link to it directly, or when you log in, you'll actually see a link to the dashboard. Once you're there, you have to enable venue stats, meaning I'm not going to stalk your followers, your checker-inners, until you tell me to. So once you've enabled that, you'll start to get this type of information, and this is some good stuff. So total check-ins, average number of check-ins per day, about 20 people per day, good to know. Visitors, unique and new, there we go. I'm actually too close, believe it or not. Social reach, so this is if people are checking in, how often do they push it to another social media? Good to know. So all this kind of information that you can figure out, are people checking in? Is it worth it for me to put a special together? Is this special boosting my numbers more than this special was? Yeah.
Doesn't Facebook now have this kind of setup also? They came out with it early this summer where they tell you where the age, the demographics, the psychographic, I mean, everything kind of comes up on as a recap every month.
I was going to say you can actually do it anytime. So Facebook actually has something similar to this called Insights, and I can probably stick around and show you guys some of that. And it's actually not even new. They've changed the way that they've done it, and it's quite a bit more useful now. That's going to say this post, like of the last 30 days, this post was your most popular, your most viral. It reached the most people because now they have a functionality where you can promote. Like if I already have a couple of likes on something, I can promote that post and get into the people who like my page's friends stream. It's a promoted post, which was sort of their answer. Because again, this guy, this is the bane of all of our existence, and yet I love it. Because if I'm on Facebook, I'm probably on my phone, so I'm not seeing those ads on the side. So they've got this whole promoted tweet thing, and once you've promoted it, you can see, 10 times as much traffic, 20 times as much traffic, just by spending $10. So that type of thing becomes a little bit more important to watch as well on the Facebook side. So the merchant dashboard, my favorite thing, the stats, the data. Getting started with email, and I'm trying to watch my time. I think I'm doing okay. Okay. The number one thing I can tell you about getting started with email is partner with an email service provider. Who knows what an email service provider is? Who's heard of Constant Contact? Maybe, no, yes, Fishbowl, something like that. An email service provider is a web-based service where you can keep all of your email subscribers, anybody who signs up for your emails, you can keep them in that list, and from there you can create your emails, schedule them for a time, deploy them, and then track the results from them. So, and when I say that you should get into this, I'm saying this because entry level, you guys could do this for free right now. It wouldn't cost you anything. There's something called MailChimp, for example.
What was the name of the other one?
Constant Contact. I will tell you, between Constant Contact and MailChimp, go with MailChimp. Ooh, spasming. I'm not doing it, I swear. Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't touch anything. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, blue-gray. Is that better or worse than? There we go. Nope, just kidding. All right. So the biggest benefit of this is, one, something like a MailChimp, and you'd ask what the first one is. It's Constant Contact. Constant Contact is the most well-known usually because they do a lot of advertising. They spend their money on their advertising and not their product for the most part. So instead, I would maybe recommend something, and they don't have a free out-of-the-gate option. They have a free 30-day trial. Something called MailChimp actually gives you up to 5,000 or 10,000 emails a month for free. So if you go and play with it, it's not as intuitive as working around in Facebook, but they've actually got a pretty neat setup. So MailChimp, MailChimp.com. Oh, did we just decide that was done? That's fine too.
I think do you want to just take a break and let's just?
Oh, sure.
Get this back
We
up?
can pause. Or does everybody have it up?
They all have it up, yeah.
I mean, that's fine with me.
Because it's up here.
So that's the assignment. You have all semester to work on it because we want you to gather as much data as possible. Sounds like you guys will be presenting those at the end of the semester. So feel free then, can you throw questions my way on that, or does anybody have any questions about the presentation at all? Thanks for asking throughout, by the way.